HackZone, HackZone. HackZone, HackZone.
So for those who don't know, I'm Tom, one of the HackZone founders, and also one of the badge team members for CampZone. And I've brought with me today someone who you've already seen during this week, Sebastius. He did a very nice soldering workshop where we tried to improve the audio path of the badge. It didn't work, but that's not the point.
The badge did work. It just didn't improve the quality.
So my design didn't work, but the soldering was spot on. Yes. So Sebastius is one of the core members of Badge.team, of which I am also a happy core member. And they make a whole lot of badges for different events. Yep. So I'm honored to have you with me today, Bas.
The honor is all mine, my friend.
And for everyone listening, the purpose of this stream is for you to ask any question that you have. We're monitoring the Twitch chat. I will ask Bas to have a look with it whilst I'm doing some other stuff as well.
Yeah, sure.
You can ask any question you want, and we might even answer some of them. And in the meantime, in between the questions, we will be writing some apps and talking about old stories of badge projects and things like that.
Yes, war stories are always good.
Yes, we will show you our scars. So I was actually thinking, Bas, of making a very particular app during this stream.
Oh dear.
Namely, we've been calling this badge the CampZone 2020 badge that will show on my camera here. We've been calling it also a rubber ducky, which for the listeners not familiar with this is a USB stick-like device that you can put in your computer, and it will automatically type stuff. It will act like it's a keyboard. And whilst formally you can use your badge for this, we didn't have support yet for actually automating typing things. So this rubber ducky device has a script called Ducky Script, and it allows you to write text files that give some sequence of keys that need to be typed to do funny things. So I was working on implementing Ducky Script on our badge, which I think would be quite cool. And so during this hour, I will be playing with this a bit and hopefully make a proof of concept that will open some funny website or something.
Okay.
So in the meantime, if you listening to this live stream have any questions, you can type them in the Twitch chat. We will do our best to answer them.
Yeah.
Both Bas and I are badge veterans, so you can ask us about past and present performance. We will do our best to answer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. This is actually the first Dutch event badge I know of that I haven't been a part of in making it happen in the past 3 years. So it was nice to sit back for a change.
And also, I think an applause is well deserved for Joris. He's the person who did most of the hardware design in the last few prototypes of the badge, because this is at least the first Dutch, and I think maybe the first European or even global event badge that did not require any hardware badges.
Well, the what do you call it? The German teams for CCC, they have a pretty successful track record of not requiring real hardware modifications to get it even running.
Yeah, so for the Dutch teams, I think
this was a Dutch first, yes.
So in my first badge project, this was in 2018. We made this little guy here, the CyberCom.
Oh, we're going to do show and tell. Let me. You start talking and I'll.
Yeah, I mean I have an overhead cam, so I might as well, right?
I'll grab some more stuff.
So for this CyberCon, we had made some nice buttons that allow you to do different things with the badge. It can learn and replay infrared commands from remotes and stuff like this, and also 433 megahertz from click on, click out lighting systems and stuff like this. So these buttons allow you to cycle between different things you can do on the badge. And if I'm not mistaken, by default they would switch to ground. And it turned out that this was incompatible with the pins we had assigned these buttons to on the microcontroller, which was an Arduino. So we had all of these things made, actually all of the PCBs made, and then we figured out, well, we actually need VCC on these buttons instead of ground. So we had to make some modifications. I'm not sure if you can see it on this cam. We had to cut some traces, I think in 3 different places, and we had to actually make a bridge. I'm not sure you can see it, but there's here a wire, a very short wire that we had to solder.
Got some braces.
Yeah. So we had to solder 125 of these wires in order to get the buttons to work.
Oh well, 125.
Yeah, I mean, this was the first batch we did, so it was a modest amount of batches that we started with.
And did we learn? No.
No, of course not. Of course not. So then the next year for us, 2019, we made this, I think, well-known LED panel badge. And it was almost completely working, except the microprocessor is here. And we thought it would be a good idea to put the extension plug, where you could add add-ons and stuff like this, all the way here. And so you can imagine the traces from the microprocessor to this thing are quite long. In fact, really, really long. And because we didn't correct the pull-ups for these long traces, the communication to the add-ons actually didn't work. So we had to, instead of using a hardware implementation for this communication, we had to use a software implementation that just kept retrying and retrying until it got one of the packets that was not correct.
Wait a second. Sorry. The I2C didn't work on that small board? Okay.
No, it did work actually, but it only worked because we had a software solution for it.
Okay.
Because the hardware was just completely broken.
Just for your information, behind me, that big black panel, the flip-flop panel, is I2C bus powered, and the total cable length is about 3 meters.
Wow, but it's probably thick cable, I guess, right? So low resistance.
No, well, it should have thicker cables.
Yeah, so hopefully you have some strong pull-ups there. I believe for the 2019 I used 10K maybe even, so wildly out of spec even for short traces.
Oh yeah, that's a little bit too much.
But for long traces it was definitely definitely erroneous.
And you're running it across high power LED drivers anyway, so
this is true. Oh, Joris, actually our Joris from the badge team made a nice remark that we had another hardware failure on the CampZone 19 badge. Namely that we had such a bad power rails that if the transmission power of Wi-Fi was at its default, which is the maximum, it would randomly reboot when you did anything with Wi-Fi. So we had to lower the Wi-Fi transmission power for the badge to be functional to begin with.
Yeah, but didn't we have the? Let me try and switch to my microscope. I broke it. Didn't we have the free capacitor in the bag for that?
Yeah. So the free capacitor made it better. Specifically, it made it better when you did not use a battery and only used USB. But still, this reboot problem would be there potentially even with this capacitor. So what happened was I had read the datasheet for our voltage regulator, and then copied the part of the voltage regulator, but did not copy the part where it said it's very important you have these 2 capacitors around the voltage regulator for stability. And it turned out that this was indeed true.
Yeah.
So this voltage regulator is just oscillating all over the place. And so this causes the power rails to be highly unstable.
Yeah, this is also, for those who haven't heard this little inside joke, this is the reason I regularly refer to Tom as Mr. Muntz. And Mr. Muntz is a reference to an entrepreneur in the 50s or 60s. I think he sold TV sets in the UK. and he was known and feared by his engineers because he had an opinion on saving cost, and he went about his research and development labs with a pair of pliers and cut out any component and then tested the TV again. If it still worked, then the component got scrapped.
Yeah, because it wasn't needed, obviously.
It wasn't needed, obviously, because and so his TVs only worked within a certain radius of the transmitter. And the same with the CampZone 19 badge. It only works if you keep it within a certain specification of of normal. Here's that little capacitor, by the way, you can add in yourself. There's a nice SMD footprint, and you get a through-hole capacitor for soldering.
That sounded like a very underhanded joke, Bas. But you're right, of course. You want to know what happened there?
Well, yes.
It's not that it's not that the SMD component was that much more expensive or something.
No.
It was that I had chosen the wrong footprint for this capacitor. Yeah. It was much too small, and so there was no capacitor to be bought in this size with the capacitors.
That happens to me all the time. That sort of stuff.
Yeah. So I learned from it. Nowadays, I check first if a capacitor is available in the size that I want, and only then I put it in the design. So this was all a good progress to be made.
Mm-hmm. So this was the first one with KiCad, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure actually. I think I may have done the CyberCon with KiCad as well. Okay. I think so. Yeah, I think so, because I remember trying to import the DXF graphics into it, and I don't know how to do this in Eagle.
Okay,
but I can check actually.
Basically the same.
No. No, I don't have the project on this computer. I can check.
Oh, that was with, someone is saying in the chat that it was with KiCad.
Ah, yeah. So this is Quinten, who worked also with...
Hey, Renzies has a question for us.
Nice.
So here's the question. At CampZone 2019, HackZone was asking donations for the next badge. So where is the donation request for the 21 badge?
So I really appreciate this question, and I will give some background before I answer it. Coming back to what Bas said about me munching stuff in badges, I take great pride in making our badges as cheap as we can possibly make them, because normally we give them out for free, and this year we couldn't give them out for free because no one wanted to sponsor during Corona, except for Tesorion. Thanks, Tesorion.
Yeah, Tesorion is awesome.
So it was very hard to get sponsoring. We couldn't get the entire project sponsored. And so we needed to sell the badge, which is something that I wasn't looking forward to, because I really want these things to go to people to play with, and I'm not keen on introducing any barriers that people might have for obtaining them. Mm-hmm. So here, maybe more important than ever, it was crucial that the cost of the badge would be very low. And so necessarily there's zero margin for us on these badges. And in fact, if it weren't for the donations that we got, we would even make a loss on them. In previous years, it's comparable. So whenever we get sponsor money for these badge projects, we tend to spend it. So we tend to only ask what we need in the first place, and then of course we spend what we get, which means that also there's very little headroom for unforeseen costs and stuff like this. So to answer Renzi's question, we take donations, and they're actually needed for us to do these kinds of things, because otherwise our budget would run out, and we couldn't do R&D, we couldn't prototype next badges and stuff like this. So we happily take donations, and they're needed, and luckily every year many people donate. We've seen that more people donate physically on the event than now in virtual Corona times. So I really appreciate this question by Renzies, asking where you can donate. If you like what we did, and you want us to do more of this kind of stuff, you can donate to our bank account at bank.me/HackZone, which I also put in the chat just now. And any amount you send will be greatly appreciated. And it will all, of course, be used for future projects like this.
Yeah, it's It's for everyone not yet knowing this. Badge.team, the HackZone team, we're all a bunch of volunteers doing this in our spare time for basically just for the fun of it, and to enable people to learn more stuff and to show our insane hobby to people. um, Out of curiosity, what did this badge cost in the prototype phase and in the production phase?
So is your question how much we spent on?
Yeah, how much did you spend?
How much did I spend? So I don't actually have the financials for the prototyping phase yet, but I think it will be between 400 and 500 euros, roughly about. And your other question was how much was the?
How much was the total project?
The total project.
Roughly.
Many thousands of euros. How many exactly? I would have to look up. But we can calculate without looking up the spreadsheets right now. So we sold 417 of these at 20 euros each. So that's already 8,340 euros. Yeah. But we ordered 500. So let's see, that's 383 times. It cost us around 10 euros to produce these things. And this is excluding shipment and importing and stuff like this. So let's say 10 euros. It's 830 euros more. So let's say without prototyping, without the R&D cost at the beginning of ordering hardware and stuff like this, it's already 9,000 euros, maybe close to 10,000. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's it's small amounts add up to really big numbers really fast. I remember you being really proud of the audio circuitry on this badge, costing 10 cents in total. Yeah. Quintix box the sales price. He's saying take into account sending the badges to people instead of just handing them out.
Yeah. So every badge that we gave to someone cost us 4 euros just in sending the thing, and this doesn't even include the envelope that it's put in, and it doesn't include the extra spares that we had to send to people that had problems with their badge, things like this. Yeah, so you can imagine. I told you it's around 10 euros per badge to produce at this quantity. Then you need to ship them here. You need to pay import fees and things like this. You need to put them in an envelope. You need to send them.
It makes a fun project a lot less fun to have to actually start shipping them out and provide remote support and everything. I imagine.
And so now realize that the 20 euros that everyone paid was including VAT this time, because we didn't give them out for free. So people had to pay for them as consumers. So this means that we don't have 20 euros to spend. We have quick maths, roughly under 16 euros to spend. So these 4 euros just go poof in the air. So you can imagine that there are very, very small margins to work with. I'm extremely glad that it worked out. If it weren't for the sponsoring of Tesorion, we would have had many hundreds of euros in the red for this project.
Yeah.
Without donations, of course.
Yeah. Quintix Box is commenting. I don't know if Quintix Box is a member of your crew. The logistics of this one were tough. I can imagine. It's.
Quinton has worked with us for every badge since the CyberCon.
Ah, cool.
No. And he is the one actually that made the logistics part happen. So for people to actually receive their badge.
Oh, nice.
Because he's the one who, through his company, arranged the shipping labels. So the nice. Physical pieces of sticker on the back with your address on them, that was Quinton. And without his help, we had to print 400 pieces of A4 paper and tape them by hand. So I'm really glad he was able to arrange this.
It's those small things. People say, "Oh, but you can do this. It's a lot. You can do this step, and that's a lot cheaper." And then they don't realize that you have to do that tedious step 500 times.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, I hope everyone appreciated the cyber sticker on their envelope. This is something that I decided would be cool during the packaging sweatshop that we had. I thought, oh man, it would be great for the receiving experience if we had something else than just a white envelope. And I think this cost us maybe a half hour or an hour extra time to package. So I hope everyone appreciates it.
It's that point where I decide beforehand, okay, do I want my envelope printed from a printing company?
Yeah.
Because no way I'm going to ask a volunteer unless we have plenty of volunteers. So because for those who do not know me, I organized the logistical bits around the SHA 2017 badge, around the Hacker Hotel 2019 badge, and the Hacker Hotel 2020 badge. It's an incredible amount of volunteer time you're spending if you have to spend 30 seconds on a single badge. It's and I saw some cool photos of you doing the sweatshops on the rooftop, Tom.
Yeah. So this was oh man, this was incredibly difficult.
Okay. So do we first have to explain the term sweatshop to people?
Yeah. So I was just about to do this.
Okay.
Normally in these batch projects, there you can imagine there's a lot of logistics involved, from just packaging all the components into a bag, flashing all the badges, making sure they have firmware on them. And many people luckily always want to help out with this. So usually
people love doing menial labor for some reason.
Well, for cool projects, I can understand, right? I help myself quite often as well. And so usually what happens is we get all the components to one of the badge team members. Then they drive it to one of the hacker spaces. We devise a nice sequential logistics process for getting them from components to a nice bag with everything arranged.
Yeah.
And then 20, 30 people join to help out. Everyone has a club mate, and we go at it. And this causes, even for very large projects like the SHA 2017 badge, to be done in days, if not hours.
Yeah.
Whereas if just the badge team would do it themselves, it would take days, if not weeks. Yeah. So Bas just showed the SHA 2017.
Oh, sorry. Badge. I'll keep it up some longer. Yeah.
Interestingly, this was that SHA 2017 badge was what got me into badge development. So I think it's a very special one, at least to me.
Yeah, it is to me too. It's it is literally the first badge to come out of the Dutch community. In at least, well, I don't know if there's been badges before 2013, but ever since 2013, I haven't seen an electronics badge happen. There was talk at OHM to make one, but it didn't. They didn't follow through for some reason. So it was inspiring to do the 2017 badge.
So back to the story. We gather in a hackerspace usually, and everybody helps out packaging and flashing these badges.
Yeah.
And this is what we call a sweatshop. So people volunteer without pay to help out with the project, and we give them some club mate, and everybody's happy.
Yeah. So the trick is you get one task. So one person just packages everything. One person just all day flashes all the badges. So you do one task and you do it well.
Exactly. But then this year we had the coronavirus situation. And I thought it was extremely irresponsible to collect 30 hackers in a hackerspace. In fact, even if I didn't think it would be irresponsible, I don't think any hackerspace would have welcomed us in these numbers.
Yep.
So my girlfriend Katerina and I tried to do as much as we could ourselves. So for example, we flashed all the USB chips, the STM32s on these badges by hand ourselves, with just the two of us. And the packaging of components, in fact, she did by herself almost, all 500 pieces, all 500 bags with God knows how many pieces of components in there.
Yeah, but your partner is special. She nearly threatened me if I didn't invite her for sweatshops. So
yeah, she really likes this. Yeah, this is true. No, but she also wanted to help me out, of course, because you can see this was a very stressful project for me, as it is always. These projects are huge, and there's so much opportunity to fail every step of the way. So I was really happy with her help.
Yeah.
But for some things, we really did need some extra help because, like I said, it would have taken us days, and with 2 extra people, it took only a few hours. So, for example, flashing the ESP32, the Wi-Fi chip on the back, this we did with the 4 of us. And we also packaged the envelopes with the 4 of us. But of course, we couldn't do this indoors, or at least I didn't think it was the most responsible thing to do. And the apartment where Katrina and I live has a very large roof that's accessible to people. With some tables on there and stuff like this. So we actually did, I think, the first outdoor Dutch batch sweatshop, where nice. We didn't do a sequential process like we normally do, where people pass along the components, but everyone was doing all the steps themselves sequentially, so that we could stay 1.5 meters away from each other. So this was a really interesting experience, and it worked out for the best.
Yeah. Well, it did. I haven't seen many complaints, quote unquote. I don't know how many faults in badges or in packaging or anything happen.
I've received
roughly.
Yeah, less than 5, fewer than 5.
So less than 1%.
Yeah, I think 2 people mentioned that one of the capacitors on the back had fallen off. One of the electrolytic big ones. I will show them on the camera right now.
Oh, I can put them under my microscope. I can grab my microscope. Just give me a second.
Yeah, that might be nicer.
Here we go. It's one of these little thingies.
Yeah, so one of these electrolytic capacitors came off.
Yeah, but those are pretty tall compared to the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, and of course the badge works well without it as well. But luckily the people that had it also had a soldering iron, so they were able to fix it themselves. Otherwise, of course, they would have gotten a spare.
Yeah.
Let's see. I've had 2 people, I think, that had diodes come off. This is a bit more unfortunate.
I had one over here. A friend of mine called in to claim this one had fallen off.
Yeah. So this also happened during transport, and this meant that one of the buttons, one of the silicon buttons, did not work on the keypad. And of course, that's much less nice than just a capacitor missing. So for these people, we sent replacements. I think in the case of your friend, a replacement part. Because they could fix it. They could fix it themselves, which for us was very nice. But the few people with irreparable or otherwise not able to fix problems, we just sent a replacement badge, of course. I think this happened once only out of 417, so I'm really glad.
Yeah, but then again, you've handled every single one of them, so it's only natural that you don't have many complete failures.
Oh, that's maybe fun. I can show you. I can show you all what the test was that we did in the factory.
Yeah,
this might be interesting. I will switch to the overhead cam, and then I will launch the factory checks app from the terminal in the browser window you see in the center of your screen. So this is exactly what
there's a factory check app.
Yeah, this is exactly what we would use to test the badge when it's first booted. I think it's factory checks, but it might be factory check. I'm gonna have to see. Oh, my badge is broken. That's not nice. Let me grab a second one.
Your badge is broken. That's
Yeah, I mean,
only fitting. That's only fitting.
no, software. I mean, of course, I'm developing actively throughout the week. So sometimes I have a badge in an unstable state.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see if we're allowed to do stuff here. I think we are. So I will start the factory checks app. And you can see what we did 500 times for each of the badges that we had. You will see in real life dimly lit LEDs, but on the webcam I think they're still quite bright. This we use to test all the LEDs. So we can see if, for example, one of the channels is missing. If, for example, here the red channel would be missing, we would only see green and blue. But on this badge, everything is fine. And then we test also the keypad with the diagonal buttons. These each have a different color.
You've actually checked all the buttons.
Yeah, well, no, I'll get to that.
Okay.
So we check the diagonals, and why the diagonals? That's because 4 wires here and 4 wires here are connected to the microcontroller, the STM32, and we check them row by row. So first this pin is turned on, and we check the state of these 4. Then this one turns on, and we check the state of these 4, etc. And we go through each of the rows like this. So we figured if we press all the diagonals, we've checked these 8 lines, and so the connection to the STM32 will be proper, and thus all buttons must work. Well, this was really nice. When you press the final button, I don't know if you can hear it, but it will play audio saying it works, which might not work on this badge because I have no idea what state the firmware is at. No, it doesn't display it. It doesn't play it. Mm-hmm. But the same nice lady who is normally on your home screen would now tell works when you press this last button. But what we didn't take into account is that on the back side, each of the maybe you can show this again, Bas, the diodes.
Yeah. Give me a second.
Each of the buttons has one single diode connected to it in order to make this this matrix approach work.
Oh, I'll swap this around.
And we didn't take into account that these diodes might either be faulty or...
the diodes are like here, D9, D13.
Yeah,
D10.
exactly. So I don't see it on your cam yet. Yeah, there we go.
It's coming. So the thing is with these that a few of them are relatively close to the edge of the board. Like
yeah, so luckily we had no faults in soldering or placement. They were all placed correctly and soldered correctly, but we had like something like this that I just said that fell off during transport.
Yeah.
And so that was very unfortunate. But even though we didn't test all the buttons because we didn't think of this, luckily we had no faults where the diodes were soldered wrongly or missing from the factory or something like this.
Don't remind me about wrongly soldered diodes.
How so?
That's still traumatizing. Yes. That's still traumatizing. Let me go back to full screen.
For the listeners, last year's Hacker Hotel badge was very interesting.
This year's actually.
Oh, it was this year's. Yeah, of course.
Yes, in 2020. So for 2020, we made the Hacker Hotel, this beautiful Hacker Hotel badge. And it had 30 LEDs on them, and all of them were oriented the wrong way. So we had a lot of repair work to do.
And for those not familiar with LEDs, they only work in one orientation. So if you connect the voltage the other way around, they do nothing. And so it was quite interesting to have all of the LEDs reversed on this badge, because in theory this means that none of them will work ever. But luckily we were able to fix it, and I think Bas will show you how we did it.
Oh, yes, we can. I didn't want to take too much from your story away.
No, please, just go ahead.
This is old news. But if you want the full story, I recommend going to see the badge talk from Hack Hotel. We can link you in a minute. I'll post a link in a minute. So what we did was, if you can, I hope you can see this. I'll zoom in a bit to make it less tiny, but my screen is tiny, so you'll have to make do. So there's a bunch of bodge wires in there to make it all to make them all work, because we then reversed the polarity in software, which sounds really Star Trek-y, reversing the polarity in software. But it somehow it worked, and we were able to deliver successful badges with our little cute mascots on there.
Yes. Talking about reversibility, a few messages above. Joris really wants to make sure that I go with the billen bloot, as we would say in Dutch. And he mentioned that during one of the first development boards of the CampZone 20 badge, we had something very interesting, namely a USB-C connector that everyone knows you can plug in either way.
Yeah.
That only worked one way. So only in one orientation did it actually do something.
You are not the first, my friend, to have that problem. It also happened to our German friends for the cardio wristwatch.
Was this in production or in development?
No, in prototype phase.
Yeah. So you have to manually connect these pins to each other, and I didn't do this in the first cycle.
Yeah.
It was very interesting to see, because at first I thought that maybe something was wrong with my circuitry, but then I figured out I hadn't even connected them. This is something that you're supposed to do. I didn't know this.
Yep. Yeah. Stuff usually works better when you've actually connected it.
Yeah. So now I know, and now I have one of these pre-made blocks for USB connectors in my KiCad library. So in all future projects, I can just drag and drop this in.
Yeah, I really need to copy your KiCad library.
No,
it's
quite nice actually. It has now by default the pull-up resistors that are required to draw 1.5 amps from USB 3 ports.
By default.
So this is quite useful in projects when you need some power. With these LEDs, the power consumption rises quickly.
Okay. And with the STM32, can we also get it to deliver 20 volts or?
No, so I don't think it does power delivery, and I have to say I have no idea how this works. The power delivery spec. I've heard that it's quite complex to understand, but I haven't looked into it myself.
Yeah, it's either get a cheap module from China to make it happen, or
yeah, but I haven't seen any cheap USB power delivery chips yet.
Oh,
all of them are like 50 cents plus, which in my book is not cheap.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, my definition of cheap goes on the single volume stuff, not on the badge volume stuff. But yeah, it's still something I would like to see improve in the open source world, so we can just copy a bit of schematic and copy a bit of code and make your badge draw 20 volts and 75 watts or something.
So it would be really cool to do this, and it would actually be useful in a couple of badges. For example, some that send radio signals. This is where it would be very nice. It would be very nice also for audio. So if we had 12 volts on this badge, we would be able to do much louder audio with much less noise. Because we didn't need to. We then don't need to amplify as much. Right now, I think we have either a gain of 1 or maybe even 2, so everything is amplified twice, and this of course increases the noise that you hear as well.
Yeah, you're not only amplifying the signal, but also amplifying the noise floor below it, and that's
exactly
beneath it. But yeah, cool.
So if you're listening to this stream, it is a Q&A. You can ask us anything about badge building and anything else as well.
Hey, we forgot something, Tom.
What?
We're forgetting to write the actual app.
Yeah, okay, but this is interesting as well, right?
Yeah,
think
we're just
the app will be on the App Store at some point. So
yeah.
so post your questions in Twitch, because that's the chat that we're monitoring right now.
Yeah.
We don't have Discord and such open, so please put them in Twitch, and we might even answer the questions that you have.
Yeah.
So Bas, I think this was the first Dutch badge also that was sold instead of given away for free. Is that right?
Yes, I think so. Well, we after SHA 2017 we sold a few of them because we had a lot left over, and to recoup some of the cost for the event and to invest it back into the community, we sold a bunch of them. Well, not the badge team, but the people from SHA. Sold a few, but not. It was not the default.
Yeah.
We usually we don't like to do a commercial project. Some of us are available to for hire if you want a badge for your commercial event, but most of us just like it as a hobby. But this was I think the one way to actually make it happen, right?
Yeah, this was the only way this project was able to go on. Yeah. So I tried.
Well,
so we had to order in China, I think June 1st, and I tried up to May 15th to get sponsoring in order for them to be free, for the badges to be free for people. So 2 weeks before ordering, I was still trying to contact companies and get them to sponsor this money.
Yeah, everybody
course,
was closed.
We were asking for 8,000 plus euros in sponsoring.
Yeah,
and everyone was closed down since the beginning of the year.
There's two awesome questions coming in, and they're both very nice and long-winded. So the first one is from Jeroen. How did you get from concept to something mass-produced, as a, if I might say so, product? I've heard about like 5 prototypes. How do you do testing, and when do you decide it was good enough to go to production? I think we can both answer that.
Yeah. So I'll start. I started with finding this keypad online. I think it was Alibaba where I saw it. I'm not sure. Maybe Adafruit, because they made something similar to this before. I found this.
Yeah.
The silicon keypad.
A few companies did something with silicon keypads and LEDs underneath.
Yeah, for some reason they stopped. I don't know why. I know SparkFun and Adafruit both did something comparable to this, and I think both are not deliverable anymore. You can't buy them anymore. So anyway, I found this keypad, and I thought, man, it would be so cool to have a badge with this kind of stuff on there, because the clicky feedback of this thing just amazes me. I really enjoy myself just doing this all day. So I ordered a bunch of these. I found one factory in the entire country of China making specifically these kinds of keypads, and I just ordered everything that they had. So all the models that they made. I think these keypads we buy them for a little under €1 per piece at a volume of 1,000 pieces, and I bought 10 of them or so for €70. Just because the shipping was much more than the actual cost of the keypads. In fact, I think if I asked them, I would have gotten the keypads for free. Just the shipping I would need to pay, but the amount would be roughly the same. So I got these keypads in, I think this was in October or November or so, and I started playing with them. I had a PCB made that fit specifically these keys. And the first prototype that I made was just physically a PCB that fit the keys, along with breakouts for DuPont wires, so these breadboard wires to connect to each of the keys, so that I could see whether the press down event was clear enough, and whether it made well enough contact and stuff like this. So that was the first prototype. And then I think in the second one, I added LEDs and the ESP32. And of course, I had them made. They were shipped from China to here. Just the PCBs, mind you. All of this was still hand soldered. Then I think Joris said, well, Tom, right now you're using these NeoPixel light LEDs, like LEDs. And they're quite expensive, right? If we use the analog LEDs that we used last year for the CampZone 19 badge, then I think the project would be a lot more affordable. And so, of course, I said, amazing, let's do it.
Just to put things in perspective for everyone, NeoPixel LEDs cost about 6 or 7 cents per unit. And yes, in times 16 times 500 is expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, so we actually, Joris figured out that we could save in total around €1 or €1.50 maybe, moving from these NeoPixels to analog LEDs. And then continue to spend, I'm convinced, at least 100 hours actually drawing these analog LEDs. So we should not calculate the hours spent on this project.
You never
to an
should.
hourly tariff, yeah. But in the end, we implemented these analog LEDs. I think these were prototypes 3 and maybe 4. I think 3 only. And they worked. It was very nice. They were not super bright back then. We still needed to tweak some things.
We only have about 10 minutes left, so we need to speed up a bit.
I will move quickly. So then one final important thing about prototypes 4 and 5. Also, Joris said, well, it would be kind of cool if we can do more USB stuff than just have a serial port that your computer can connect with. I have some ideas. And then again, he dove into KiCad and later on wrote some firmware as well. He added an STM32 that can act like its USB device. So we can make it look like a keyboard, like a mouse, a joystick, a MIDI controller. That's all the stuff that it does right now already. But in theory, you can make it do whatever kind of full-speed USB device you want. So he went back to the drawing board. He added this stuff, and I think this was prototype 4 and 5. And 5 is almost exactly the final release version.
Yeah.
And the timeline of this was roughly November for V1 to beginning of May V5.
Yeah. Normally, when you're doing development, especially for this scale of product, as you call it in your question, you don't keep adding features every prototype revision.
Yeah, so this was the first project where we had many prototypes. Before, I tried to do at least one prototype, and if time allowed, 2, but that was the limit. And this was the first time we did a good 5 revisions, spread nicely over these many months of development time. For the next project, we'll definitely do the same because this was very pleasant to work like this.
Yeah, I'm not going to add much to that because there's only 9 minutes left. For SHA and Hacker Hotel badges, it went roughly the same. You start with a cool idea. You make a breadboard concept, just grabbing some modules, grabbing some standard off-the-shelf parts, hooking them up together, not making anything pretty, just making it work to prove your idea, and then slowly iterating to a working prototype, and then optimizing it for production. And when it works, when your final design works, you ask the company to produce a few of them for you, ship them to you so you can test the components and the PCB and their manufacturing methods, and then you give the go for the final production.
Yeah, so this year was the first year that JLC, a popular PCB house in China, supported small-scale assembly, so where you can have just a few boards made affordably. And we used this extensively for this project. We were very happy with it. We didn't have our actual production manufacturer send us any samples because we work with a company called AllNet China. They're just amazing. They always make sure that everything is all right. So we don't actually need to have samples. We've done many projects with them now over many years, and every time Norbert, the owner, just ensures perfect quality. So
Yeah. Norbert is also the one who sourced all the components for SHA 2017, and actually every batch project ever since. He has helped us out greatly. He's our hero.
yeah,
For many
unsung
years already.
hero for sure.
Okay, I'm gonna move on because we need to answer some more questions. There was a question. I'm more of a software kind of person from Gropa. What is a good place to get started with the hardware part of badges and hacking stuff like ESP boards? Well, this badge actually. just grab this badge and make it work and do stuff with it. There's plenty of hardware on there to throw your own code against. You don't have to use our badge team firmware. You can use the Arduino firmware if you want. There's plenty of stuff for you to experiment in Python as well. And from that point on, just start doing stuff. Just grab a cheap Arduino from the internet, grab some modules, and hook them up together. So
yep. So this is actually how I started as well many years ago. I think I ordered an Arduino 2009, and I just drove some LEDs. I think I made a LED blink, and it was the most amazing experience back then ever. So I recommend everyone do the same. Just get one of these devices, an Arduino or a Node MCU ESP32 module. Just get anything that works with a beginner interface like Arduino. Follow some examples online. Do very simple things. Really enjoy yourself, and then move on.
Yeah, and the trick is, do not get one of those get started with electronics books because they're boring. Just
they're really
get started. Just get started with this, and then move on to, if you want to know the basis beneath it, then get one of those electronic books and really learn the analog stuff and the stuff that is underlying.
And I find also that you don't need to know actually that much. So you can in this field just try a bunch of stuff, and most of the times it will work out. Also, Renzi's has a recommendation of the Adafruit learning guides, which are free. And I recommend Adafruit as well. They're really nice.
Yeah, they're good. I saw a question from Renzi's as well. Are we going to use the ESP32S2 next year? Because it removes useless Bluetooth but adds USB support.
So actually, I have something interesting to say there. We may or we may not, I don't know yet. But regarding the Bluetooth, actually, Joris and I are currently working on getting the latest version of the firmware for the ESP IDF, running on our firmware, and also the latest version of MicroPython. And one of the nice advantages of this is that we will get Bluetooth support. If it works, fingers crossed, not only on this badge, but on every previous SHA badge or badge team badge that we've made.
Yeah.
So this goes back many years of event badges.
We had for SHA 2017 we had to drop Bluetooth because both time and memory were constrained. The S2 is weird, and it's a very different product. If you want a high performance chip with lots of possibilities, lots of hardware interfaces, you want the regular ESP32. The S2 is more designed like an Internet of Things single purpose chip. So if you want to add Wi-Fi to something, you can get the S2. But if you want two I2S buses, two I2C buses, and all the other hardware peripherals that we're using very frequently in our badges, you want the regular ESP32.
Yeah, so I really like the S2 because it's also quite nice sometimes to have just a single core. The normal one is dual core. And this having multiple cores really bites you in the ass sometimes. So we have quite a few problems related to this. Some task running on the other core, trying to talk to a task on the first core, and it just crashes the entire system. You don't have any of these problems on the S2, which is really nice. But this, of course, also removes some of the things that are nice about having a second core. So, for example, the CampZone 20 badge wouldn't have been possible on the S2 because one of the cores is taken completely by the audio part. So it just like a savage takes sound samples from memory and inserts them into the audio device, the DAC. It does this continuously. So if we didn't have a separate core for this, it wouldn't work.
Yeah, and there's more trade-offs there as well. The S2 literally halved the amount of hardware interfaces on the chip. So
but they also increased performance. So the single core performance is higher in the S2.
Yeah. Single core performance is higher. It's an awesome device, but it as I said, it's a trade-off, and it will depend on each badge design, each concept. What we'll make with it, and what the HackZone team makes it. Which begs another interesting question: will there be a CampZone 21 badge?
Yes.
As you're also doing, as you're also part of the MCH 21 badge group.
Yeah, so I didn't get into
major
this
badges. Sorry.
I didn't get into this at all in my previous answer. No, there will be not. There will not be a CampZone 21 badge. There will be a CampZone 22 badge. And the reason for this is that most of us will be working on the hacker event MCH next year, where we will also make a badge. And these badge projects take such a ridiculous amount of time. I'm talking hundreds to if not 1,000 hours of volunteer time, that it's not feasible to do two.
Yeah.
So we will not do a badge like this next year, but for sure the year after we will.
Yeah.
And maybe we will make something for fun next year, just something simple.
Just for your perspective, the sweatshops alone, for all the volunteers, count up to thousands of hours just to go from raw product from China to something that you can hand out at the event. It's an incredible amount of work, and it's not impossible, but
it takes a lot of time for sure.
If you still want to sleep next to your partner and have a job during the daytime, you cannot do two batch projects for one summer. No. But that might also be a challenge, Tom, for new people to show up and make something happen for CampZone.
Yeah, of course, this is true. So if you're interested in making badges or learning how to make badges, of course we can support you in everything we've learned in the past few years. So yeah, send us a message if you're interested for helping out.
We have the contacts. We have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, a lot of scars and bruises along the way. But then again, for ETH0, we had this little thing. This was the ETH0 DIY badge, and it's a bare board, proto board, and you could just and it was a bit weird, and it was tiny. It's a 5 by 5 centimeter board, and we just had, for the event, we had some components, and we challenged everyone to, hey, make your own badge, make something fun. So that's also something that you can do, and you don't have to be a great experienced badge team member to make happen. So Rensis is asking, I'll go one back. Can you rebrand it and give it away as CampZone 21 badge? Do a repeat, which is also what Rensis is asking. Can we do a rerun for 21?
So the questions are a bit different, right? Because Rensis asks, can we sell them? Can we sell reruns? And this is definitely possible. And Gropa is talking about rebranding and giving them away. Both are possible, but the hard part about giving them away is you still have to find sponsorship and arrange the production and stuff like this. Which
and the sweatshop it's
still a very large impact, large effort. Whereas selling them is much less effort, because this you can do with much more headroom, right? We can just have them produced in China, have them assembled and packaged in China and things like this. Shipped here.
Yeah. We can and we can ask DEF CON level pricing for them, Tom.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm interested in this, but for sure, sure to have a healthy margin on top of what it costs us in order to not have any of these headaches. So we have all the packaging done there, and we can just sell them here without much effort.
Yeah. So what a bunch of the badge teams for DEF CON do, plural. There's not there is usually a single DEF CON official badge, or there's a whole scene of unofficial ones, and they sell them and that's usually between $100 and $150 for each badge. I think a part of it goes to charity or to sponsor their hotel or their party
so
or
most
whatever.
of them use it for their travel and hotel costs, and hotel costs include exorbitant drinking receipts and stuff like this. So
I think we need that as well, Tom.
I'm not a
Hotel
huge
costs.
fan. So what
No,
I like
me
is
neither.
having these badges go to a lot of people who then can learn new stuff. This is what is what's important for me.
Yeah.
If I want to make money, there are much more lucrative things I could be doing with my time.
Yeah.
Badge
So
building is not one of them.
so all of our badges up until this point have been about enabling people to learn new skills, learning programming, learning to have a feel with hardware, meeting new hardware like e-ink, soldering on your own LEDs at SHA 2017, working with shitty add-ons, doing a puzzle room at Hacker Hotel, having a really bright light pane for you to program cool visual effects. Also having a hardware interface, having to solder on your own capacitor on the back. And the current one is no exception to that.
If you find this kind of stuff interesting, be sure to follow on Twitter, HackZone NL. This is also the account where we will let you know about reruns of previous badges. Currently, we're making a rerun of the CampZone 19 badge, the LED panel, and possibly we will also do the same for the CampZone 20 badge. So if you want to get your hands on more of them, follow that Twitter account.